Economics is not just a subject you study to pass exams. Once you truly understand it, you start seeing the world differently. From supermarket prices, to government decisions, to why some countries grow and others don't. Economics is about thinking analytically. It trains you to ask why things happen, not just what happens. When there's a fuel increase, economists will question if it's a supply shock, currency weakening, global demand, or government taxation. This mindset helps connect real-world events to economic principles. Every decision has a trade-off, either choices with consequences. Economics is powerful because it gives you tools to critically evaluate policies and how to think logically about complex systems. That is the real value of studying economics. Economics shows that your choices aren't random. They follow clear rules. Consumer choice. Theory explains how people decide what to buy when money is limited and preferences compete. At varsity level, this topic trains you to think in trade-offs, not feelings. An indifference curve shows combinations of two goods that give the same satisfaction. Moving along the curve means giving up one good to get more of another. The budget constraint shows what you can actually afford based on income and prices. Wants don't matter if they fall outside this line. The optimal choice happens where preferences meet reality. Maximum satisfaction within limits. That's how economics explains real human behavior. Once we understand how consumers make choices, the next question is simple. How do firms produce what consumers want? Production theory explains how firms combine inputs like labor and capital to produce goods and services. In the short run, at least one input is fixed. Firms can hire more workers, but they can't instantly expand factories. This is why output eventually increases at a decreasing rate, known as diminishing returns. In the long run, all inputs are variable. Firms can scale up, adopt new technology, or change production methods. This limitation affects how much we can produce immediately. This distinction is critical for cost analysis and business strategy. Production theory teaches you to think like a firm, balancing output, cost, and efficiency under real constraints. Once firms understand how to produce, the next challenge is controlling how much production actually costs. Total cost is the full cost of production, made up of fixed costs like rent and variable costs like labor and raw materials. Even when output is zero, fixed costs still exist. Average cost tells us how much it costs to produce 1 unit of output. This is where efficiency matters. Firms aim to produce at the lowest possible average cost. Marginal cost is the cost of producing 1 additional unit. Cost theory explains why firms expand, contract, or exit markets, and why prices behave the way they do. Understanding these concepts helps in making informed business decisions. Firms exist to maximize profit, and economics gives us a precise rule for how they do it. Profit is the difference between total revenue and total cost. But firms don't calculate this unit by unit using totals. They think at the margin. Marginal revenue is the additional income from selling 1 more unit. Marginal cost is the additional cost of producing that unit. If marginal revenue exceeds marginal cost, producing more increases profit. Profit is maximized at the output level where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Producing beyond that point reduces profit. Producing before that point means potential profit is left unclaimed. This rule applies across market structures, but marginal revenue behaves differently in competitive markets versus monopolies. And that difference explains why prices vary across industries. Once we understand the profit rule, we can now analyze how different market structures shape firm behavior. If firms maximize profit where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, what happens when firms have no control over price? In perfect competition, there are many firms, products are identical, and entry into the market is free. Each firm is a price taker. It cannot influence the market price. In the short run, Firms produce where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, but here, marginal revenue equals the market price. Firms can make profit, break even, or even operate at a loss temporarily. In the long run, economic profit attracts new firms. Increased supply pushes prices down. Eventually, firms earn normal profit only, where price equals average cost. Perfect competition represents maximum efficiency. Firms produce at the lowest possible cost. But real-world markets rarely meet these strict conditions. So what happens when a firm does control price? That takes us to monopoly. If perfect competition represents maximum efficiency, monopoly represents concentrated market power. A monopoly exists when one firm is the sole producer of a good with no close substitutes. High barriers to entry prevent new firms from competing. Unlike perfect competition, a monopoly is a price maker. To sell more, it must lower the price. That means marginal revenue lies below the demand curve. The monopolist still produces where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, but the price charged is taken from the demand curve at that quantity. This results in higher prices and lower output compared to perfect competition. The reduction in total welfare is called deadweight loss, a loss of economic efficiency. This is why governments regulate monopolies in certain industries. Between perfect competition and monopoly lies a range of real-world market structures, and those are just as important to understand. Most real-world markets are neither perfectly competitive nor pure monopolies. They fall somewhere in between. Part 1. Monopolistic Competition. In monopolistic competition, there are many firms, but each sells a slightly differentiated product. Products are not identical. Firms compete through branding, quality, packaging, and marketing. Because products are differentiated, firms have some control over price. In the long run, however, free entry reduces economic profit to normal profit. Part 2. Oligopoly. An oligopoly exists when a small number of large firms dominate the market. Each firm's decisions affect the others. This creates strategic behavior. Firms may compete aggressively, or they may engage in tacit collusion. This is where game theory becomes important in economic analysis. Understanding these market structures helps us analyze pricing, competition policy, and regulation. In an oligopoly, firms do not make decisions in isolation. Each firm must consider how rivals will respond. Game theory is the study of strategic decision-making, where the outcome for one firm depends on the actions of others. It is widely used to analyze pricing, advertising, and market entry decisions. One classic example is the prisoner's dilemma. Even when cooperation would benefit both firms, individual incentives may lead them to compete aggressively. This explains why price wars often occur. A Nash equilibrium occurs when each firm chooses its best strategy given the strategy of the other. No firm has an incentive to change its decision unilaterally. Game theory helps explain real-world phenomena such as price matching, collusion investigations, and competitive retaliation. When strategic behavior reduces competition, governments often intervene. When strategic behavior reduces competition and creates inefficiency, governments may intervene. Government intervention is usually justified when markets fail. Market failure occurs when the allocation of resources is inefficient, meaning society's welfare is not maximized. Common causes of market failure include monopoly power, externalities such as pollution, and the underprovision of public goods. In these cases, free markets alone may not produce socially optimal outcomes. Governments may use taxes, subsidies, price controls, or regulation to correct these failures. Competition authorities also investigate collusion and anti-competitive practices. However, intervention also carries risks. Poorly designed policy can create government failure, distort incentives, or reduce innovation. Understanding microeconomic foundations prepares us to analyze the broader economy.